Thank you for joining us on the Longform story. I'm Niranjan, and on the show tonight, we bring you 4 of the biggest stories of the last week. Stories that have made the headlines and defined the news cycle. First up, we take you to Nasik in Maharashtra, a city known for industry and faith, now at the center of a storm after serious allegations of religious coercion, sexual exploitation surfaced inside the TCS Tata Consultancy Services campus, with links being examined beyond the corporate sphere, even touching sensitive cases tied to the Red Fort. Questions are growing louder. Is this an isolated case or part of a deeper organized network? Next up, we move to Manipur, where peace remains elusive. Protests have rocked all of last week. A brief calm in early 2026, shattered by the brutal killing of 2 minor siblings in a rocket attack in Manipur last week. And despite the new government, the violence has reignited. And then we shift our focus to Hungary, where a big political shift has rattled the global dynamic. After 16 years in power, Viktor Orban has made an exit, ending an era that defined Hungary's political identity. The change in leadership marks a reset in Hungary's relationship with Europe and the world. And moving next, closer home, in Delhi NCR, a routine Monday descended into chaos last week. Streets burned, factories shut, thousands taking to the roads. But as investigators trace the digital mobilization, coordinated networks and possible multi-state links, the narrative has shifted from labor unrest to a far more complex and unsettling possibility. 4 stories that we dig deeper and bring you the answers on the long form tonight. Nasik is a city known for its industry and faith, now finding itself at the center of a huge scandal. After serious allegations of religious coercion and sexual exploitation surfaced inside the corridors of the Tata Consultancy Services unit in Nasik. What was once seen as a workplace, a space of growth and security, is under scrutiny as investigators piece together claims of manipulation, false promises, and alleged pressure tactics that turn professional relationships into something far more sinister. With key accused like Nida Khan under the scanner and reported links being examined beyond the corporate sphere, even touching sensitive cases associated with the Red Fort blast, the story raises troubling questions. Was this an isolated incident or part of a deeper, more organized network that involved religious conversion, sexual exploitation, and perhaps even trafficking?
When a top corporate company in Nasik came under the scanner for religious conversion. When your workplace, a second home, turns into the mouth of a shark, does this not put a blot on the corporate world?
During the Ramadan period, all or most of the meeting rooms were made converted into their prayer rooms, where they used to perform their prayers 5 times a day. Whenever these prayers were they used to perform prayers at that time, we were not allowed to call them into meetings, or they were given privilege to go out of this meeting and perform their prayer. Even during this meeting, the prayer times comes in. These people used to bluntly tell everyone it is their prayer time and they cannot attend this meeting, and they used to go. By this, what was implications to us is the work they have been assigned. This work was somehow we were supposed to do this work, and we were loaded with a lot of work. And they were never questioned why they did not do the work. If they have the prayer time, they should have done their part of work in extra time, but they never do it. This extra workload used to come to the Hindu employees, and they never complained about it. So this was ignored by most of the IT companies as well.
And these on your screens are the modules that run this machine, just a small part of a bigger nexus. From friendly meetings to false promises. From job offers that turned into control tactics. Was this just a story of crime, investigation, facts, and resolution? Or another case of white-collar terrorism in the making?
So now it will be important to see that what exactly the court gives an order in this particular matter. It is also important to look for Nida Khan, because Nida Khan has filed an anticipatory bail in the on the grounds of medical emergency, as she has shown that she is pregnant. So it will be important to see that what decision court makes on Monday.
As links emerge to the Red Fort blast case, the eerie silence of TCS bosses increases.
Religious sexual exploitation at a Tata Group company, Tata Consultancy Services. This is getting darker and darker as the SIT intensifies. Forced conversion, sexual abuse, and now it's gone down to human trafficking. I really believe the Tata Group needs to get more detailed in its explanations on what has happened, what was happening in their company, Tata Consultancy Services, because not only can you not put a lid on it, but the nation has a right to know.
Nida Khan is under the scanner since the controversy came to light. The woman at large, but leaving behind a trail of actions that many may take years to recover from. Nida, the woman at large and the mastermind behind TCS's grooming gang. Nida Khan is the sister of one of the accused, Danish Sheikh, the same accused who formed sexual relationship with one of the victims under the pretext of marriage. And Nida has been accused of making disparaging comments about the complainant's religion and pressuring her to convert. As soon as the case came to light, TCS issued her suspension. She is linked to Shaheen, an alleged conspirator in the Red Fort blast, for running radicalization groups. Initially identified as the HR of the company, she was later found to be a process associate.
As far as that FIR is concerned, which was filed before the Devlali Camp Police Station, Nasik, in that FIR there are no allegations that she was a HR. In fact, she was not HR, and there are very limited allegations against her. So, I don't know from where you are getting it that she was a HR, but it is not so. And this matter is pending before the Devlali Camp Police Station, wherein she is a co-accused along with other accused.
As the police investigation widens, she is currently reported to be pregnant and missing. She plotted so meticulously that she seemed to predict her own fall. And this is what her consulting doctor told Republic.
So she came to me for the first time on 11th of April. She walked in like a normal patient. She said that she has come UPT positive, home urine pregnancy checkup that they do, that a patient does, which shows the pregnancy. So she walked in with that kit in her hand and she showed me that the pregnancy was positive. And she came to me basically for a routine checkup. I prescribed regular medicines and she went away. She came to me on the second time on 13th of April. First time on 11th and second time on 13th of April with complaints that she, because she was working, she had issues during traveling, pain in lower abdomen and giddiness, weakness. So she requested me for a leave because of all these issues, and I gave her a leave of, I prescribed her a leave of 1 week. She requested that she needed longer leave. She requested if I can get 2 weeks or more a month leave. But I insisted that you come to me again after 1 week and I'll reassess you and I'll judge and I'll decide whether you need a longer leave or not.
Nida Khan's husband detained, not arrested. He was detained by Nasik SIT. We know Nasik SIT teams came at Mumra area, and we are getting information that Nida Khan's husband with Nida Khan's, they were staying at Mumra from last few months, and we have got the information that Nida Khan had taken transfer from Nasik 1 month ago, and she was operating from this area, Mumbai, Mumra, for TCS.
As the allegations came to light, Republic's investigation exposed the functioning of this mouse trap. As the investigation into the alleged harassment and religious coercion case linked to Tata Consultancy Services in Nasik deepens, disturbing victims' testimonies shed light on how trust was built and then allegedly exploited. The timeline emerging from police sources and complaints point to a pattern of emotional manipulation, professional control, and eventual coercion.
Who marketed me the Quran, he said that there is the last dharma, last religion in the world is Islam. After this, there will be no religion. Before this, whatever religion came into, they are not in existence. So those who adopt Islam, they will go in Jannah only.
So you are saying, sir, that this is happening in the most IT companies around and no one is really taking cognizance of it, and this has become a trend in IT sector now.
Yeah, this is when says IT sector, what happens? As per my understanding, these people try to see that like everyone should. This is like knowledge based like a sector. So every knowledge can be available by any kind of people, like any region of people. So it is need of them to show themselves as a secular, and to show this they are hiring these people.
The incident has sparked widespread fear, with many Hindu groups demanding strict action and justice.
Manipur remains a fractured state where peace is systematically denied. A semblance of relative calm of early 2026 has been shattered by the brutal reality of mortars and bombs that have destroyed many families. Now, despite the installation of a new government under Chief Minister Kim Chand this February, the tragic deaths of 2 young children in a rocket attack have exposed a catastrophic security rot and have reignited anarchy. The violence is far from over as ethnic fire spreads to the previously neutral Naga-dominated hills of Ukhrul, and the discovery of a sophisticated international conspiracy involving foreign tactical trainers, which suggests an engineered effort to keep the region on the edge. What went wrong in Manipur is a haunting combination of intelligence failures, security lapse, and a vacuum of political accountability. A porous border that has allowed domestic grief to be weaponized by external interests.
It struck at midnight. The bombs tore through the midnight silence of Thonglaubi in Manipur's Bishnupur district, striking a civilian home with calculated precision. Inside, a brother and a sister were asleep, both minors, their lives extinguished before they could even realize the room was on fire. The projectile was a little rocket-propelled bomb that has become the signature of Manipur's unchecked anarchy. Suspected miscreants launched the strike from the darkness of the foothills, retreating into the shadows right after. The case has since been handed over to the NIA and investigation is underway. But this attack was a cold reminder that in Manipur, a brief pause is never peace. The result is a renewed explosion of mass uproar with sit-in dharnas and large-scale protests, paralyzing the state once again. The internet services have been shut and curfews in place once again. The Tronglaobi incident is a grim reminder of history repeating itself, highlighting a rot in the security apparatus. The latest escalation saw a massive torch rally transform into a highly charged face-off between protesters and security personnel. The demonstrators marched from Lilong to the heart of Singjamay, the constituency of current Manipur Chief Minister Y. Kemchon, demanding his resignation, claiming inaction. At the barricades, the frustration of 1,000 days boiled over into a desperate scuffle with security forces. White smokes of tear gas shells turned the air thick, mixed with the sounds of slogans demanding for justice. Meanwhile, the grief-stricken family has spoken out.
मैं जिसने भी किया है मैं उसे ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि मेरे दो बच्चा ने उनका क्या क्या किया है, क्या बिगाड़ा है। जो दो बच्चा है, एक तो 5 साल का है और 5 महीने का है, उसका क्या कसूर था। जो भी डिमांड हो आपका, कोई भी डिमांड हो, प्रॉपर जगह में, प्रॉपर अथॉरिटी में करिए। स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है, उनसे करिए। उनका क्या कसूर है जो उनको ऐसे इतना ब्रूटल अटैक करके उनको मार दिया गया।
The father of the 2 children, a BSF constable himself, a man who has spent his life serving the nation, has now questioned why his innocent children had to pay the price. His wife, the grieving mother, recently discharged from the ICU, returns to a home that is hauntingly empty, dotted with reminders of the tragedy that snatched from her 2 young lives.
ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯏꯆꯥ ꯑꯅꯤꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯏꯃꯥ ꯂꯩꯕꯥꯛꯀꯤꯗꯃꯛꯇ ꯁꯤꯟꯅꯈ꯭ꯔꯕꯅꯦ ꯃꯤꯌꯥꯝꯒꯤ ꯑꯄꯥꯝꯕ ꯇꯧꯕꯗ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯒꯤ ꯑꯄꯥꯝꯕ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯔꯣ
In a powerful act of defiance, the family has flatly denied the state's offer of 10 lakh rupees in ex gratia. The public demand has now shifted from a plea for safety to a mandate for absolute justice and the immediate punishment of the perpetrators. This is not an isolated outburst of anger. It is the culmination of a 3-year-old wound that has been allowed to fester.
Youth of Bishnupur district are taking on the streets, blocking the roads, protesting against the heinous killing of 2 innocent lives and 3 civilians. They are demanding for justice for them. Yet till now, till this evening, they are protesting on the streets. Who will take this accountability? Who will bring justice for the innocent lives? Who will bring justice for the 3 civilians who tragically lost their lives? This is not the first incident. Since May 3, 2023, the crisis erupted. After a brief lull, multiple firings has been reported from Ukhrul district.
The 3-year stalemate between the Meitei and the Kuki communities has spilled over into a dangerous new theater. The ethnic fire has now ignited the Naga-dominated hills, threatening to throw the entire state into a full spectrum of chaos. In the districts of Ukhrul and Kamjong, the silence of the hills has been replaced by heavy gunfire and a sight of smoke rising from burning ancestral homes. The violence struck deep in villages like Sinakaithe, where arson has left behind charred skeletons of houses and a community shattered by a betrayal they didn't see coming. What began as a localized friction in Litan has rapidly escalated into a large-scale confrontation, with reports suggesting that Kuki miscreants are now systematically targeting Naga-dominated pockets. But in the hypercharged atmosphere of Manipur, this minor spark was instantly weaponized, spiraling into a brutal cycle of tit-for-tat violence that has paralyzed in the districts. The escalation in Ukhrul feels eerily engineered, as if the spontaneous brawls of the past are being replaced by a calculated strategy to keep the feeding of the conflict. There is a growing suspicion that this new front was not an accident, but a deliberate attempt to force the Naga community out of their neutrality and into chaos. As the violence grows larger and more organized, the state's local fabric is being torn along lines that had remained intact even during the darkest days of Manipur in 2023. Questions now arise. How such a large-scale and prolonged violence was allowed to happen and continued for 3 grueling years? Was it a systematic failure or a security lapse? Former Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh had admitted that the May 2023 violence was due to an intelligence failure. For the people of Manipur, the memories of those first months remain raw and open. A memory of heavy arson, systematic flattening of neighborhoods, and a life lived under the shadow of the gun. It was a time of digital darkness, with internet shutdowns lasting for months and curfews that turned vibrant streets into corridors of silence. Under the leadership of the then Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, the state reached a breaking point until the mounting pressure finally forced his resignation on February 9, 2025. What followed was nearly a year of president's rule, a period where the machinery of the state was managed directly from Delhi. During this interval, there were signs of a deceptive calm. The heavy artillery fell silent, replaced by only sporadic instances of gunfire in the buffer zones. The governor of Manipur, Ajay Kumar Bhalla, embarked on a series of outreach missions, visiting Churchandpur and meeting with leaders from all communities in an attempt to mend the fracture. However, when the governor publicly declared that peace had returned to Manipur, it triggered a massive public outcry from a population that felt their trauma was being erased. The demand for a popular elected government became deafening, culminating in a historic rally on 31st January 2026 that shook the foundations of the administration. By February 2026, a new government with a new face, led by Yumnam Khemchand, was installed, carrying with it the heavy, desperate hopes of 1 million people praying for a real peace. Few months, it seemed, the gamble might pay off as the guns remained silent and the state began to breathe again. But was this a genuine recovery or merely a tactical pause? The answer came with a brutal suddenness as the quiet was shattered by a new wave of escalations that have proven the peace was as thin as glass. But the situation in Manipur is deeper and layered than what one might think. Behind the smoke and the local fury, a more sinister architecture of violence is emerging. The recent arrest of 7 foreign nationals in March 2026 for crossing over to Mizoram and Manipur near the Myanmar border has sent shockwaves through the security establishment. These individuals were not mere trespassers. They were reportedly providing specialized drone combat training and tactical militant instruction within the border. This foreign expertise is already manifesting on the ground as commercial drones are being weaponized with little precision. The tragedy of Moirang in September 2024, where a civilian was killed in a drone-deployed bombing, was not a random act. These aerial strikes, which first surfaced in June 2024, have now become a recurring nightmare in Manipur, where farmers are being escorted by security officers to fields. It raises a chilling question. Is there an engineered plan to keep Manipur on a perpetual bleeding edge? In a state where borders remain porous and the reach of the law is increasingly fragile, the vacuum of governance has become a playground for external interests. The lack of a decisive political solution has created a fertile ground for these foreign actors, ensuring Manipur remains on boil. Caught in the crossfire, it is the civilians and children who suffer and the larger public out in the streets demanding what truly belongs in Manipur: peace and normalcy.
And on to our next story from Europe. It's been the biggest headline this week on the long form. A political era has come to an end in Hungary after 16 years. A defining moment in European politics after more than a decade and a half in power. Viktor Orbán has conceded defeat, marking the end of an era that reshaped Hungary's political landscape. In an electoral shift, the opposition leader there, Peter Magyar, has secured a commanding two-thirds majority, riding on record voter turnout and a clear public mandate for change. From building what he called an illiberal state to now stepping aside under mounting opposition, Orbán's exit signals not just a leadership change but a potential reset in Hungary's ties with Europe and its global positioning. It also tells you the story of how, in some parts of Europe, there's a fall of the right.
A választási eredmény számunkra fájdalmas, de egyértelmű. A kormányzás felelősségét és lehetőségét nem nekünk adták. A győztes pártnak gratuláltam.
A new political era begins in Budapest. For the first time since 2010, Viktor Orbán is no longer in control. A paradigm shift in Hungary's politics. The number tells a decisive story. The opposition led by Peter Magyar secured a commanding parliamentary majority, crossing the two-thirds threshold in Hungary's 199-seat legislature. The opposition won 140 seats, securing the 100 seats majority. This year's election saw a record surge of voters, 79%, a total of 9.9% increase since 2022. Across the country, voters gathered in long queues to cast the ballot, taking the future of Hungary in their hands.
Hát elsősorban azért, hogy egy úgynevezett európai ország legyen végre egyszer Magyarország is, és hogy tegyünk azért ilyen fiatalon is, meg egyébként úgy alapvető állampolgári kötelességünkből adódóan, hogy ez a nemzetek is egyesüljön, és egy picit lazuljanak ezek a gyűlöletbéli keretek. Úgyhogy én...
For over a decade and a half, Orbán built what he proudly called an illiberal state. Orbán's legacy marked tightening control over media, judiciary and institutions, while building close ties with Moscow and pushing back against the European Union. In Orbán's policies, media control was a key focus. His changes to media oversight structures and public broadcasting drew attention internationally. he clashed repeatedly with Brussels over sanctions, migration, and rule of law conditions, aligning ideologically with right-wing leaders across the West. Most recently, he blocked a €90 million EU loan to Ukraine, prompting his partners to accuse him of hijacking the critical aid. Orban maintained very close ties with far-right leaders like Putin, Trump, and Netanyahu. US Vice President J.D. Vance even flew to Budapest to attend Orban's re-election campaign and endorse him.
Will you stand for Western civilization? Will you stand for freedom, for truth, and for the God of our fathers? Then, my friends, go to the polls in the weekend, stand with Viktor Orban because he stands for you and he stands for all these things. God bless Hungary and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Mindent el fogunk követni, hogy ez valóban egy új korszak legyen, hiszen a magyar emberek nem egy egyszerű kormányváltásra szavaztak, hanem egy teljes rendszerváltásra.
Peter Magyar, the 45-year-old lawyer, was once a loyalist to Orban. He broke into the scene in 2024, becoming the principal challenger to the Orban-led government, gaining attention through media and public statements. Campaigning on anti-corruption, public services, and restoring EU ties, he unified a fragmented opposition to mobilize a discontent nation.
That means for me the freedom, finally the direction we wanted.
The people's mandate was clear. Budapest wants a reset with Brussels on governance and on global alignment. Peter Magyar heavily campaigned on reshaping Hungary's ties with the European Union. European leaders have welcomed his win as a return to democratic norm.
The people of Hungary have spoken and they have reclaimed their European path. It is a victory for fundamental freedoms, and I really want to say to the Hungarian people, you've done it again, against all odds, like you did in 1956 when you courageously stood up, like you did it in 1989 when you were the first to cut the barbed wire that was dividing our continent. So with this result, our union is stronger. Our union is more united.
Was das Thema Ungarn betrifft und die Ukraine, ja, das wird jetzt leichter. Ich bin übrigens auch persönlich sehr dankbar und erleichtert, dass es ein so klares Wahlergebnis gestern in Ungarn gegeben hat mit einer Zweidrittelmehrheit im ungarischen Parlament. Das zeigt, dass unsere demokratischen Gesellschaften offensichtlich doch sehr viel widerstandsfähiger sind gegen russische Propaganda und weitere Einflussnahme von außen auf solche Wahlen.
The European Union officials were in Budapest on Friday to meet with the team of Peter Magyar to discuss the unlocking of funds frozen by the bloc during the time of Orban. In Kiev, the residents are optimistic, seeing Orban's exit as a gateway to potentially easing tensions over Hungary's stance on Ukraine and European sanctions.
Дізнався вночі за попередніми підрахунками. Я вважаю, що ми можемо розраховувати на якісь зміни. Не факт, що вони будуть, але точно при попередній владі розрахунків ніяк не могло бути на користь України. Відповідно, з новим керівництвом є сподівання на те, що будуть розблоковані, наприклад, транш в 90 мільярдів або інша якась допомога.
However, beneath the victory also lies a complex transition. After 16 years, Viktor Orban's influence runs deep across courts, media networks, regulatory bodies, and economic structures.
Ellentétben a 2010 óta tapasztaltakkal, ugyan a Tisza egy óriási, soha nem látott felhatalmazást kapott tőletek, a magyar emberektől. Soha ennyien magyar politikai pártra 1990 óta nem szavaztak, mint egy 3.300.000 szavazatot kaptunk. Mi mégis másképpen szeretnénk működni, mint az előző kormány többség.
Dismantling that system will not be immediate or easy. With Peter Magyar taking the oath in the beginning of May, all eyes are on Budapest. How will this political shift in Hungary impact the future of Europe itself?
A routine Monday morning in Noida, Delhi NCR, spiraled into chaos. Vehicles burnt, tear gas being fired, and workers clashing in industrial areas with police as what began as a wage protest rapidly mutated into one of the largest industrial flashpoints across Delhi NCR, cutting across almost 10 cities. Within hours, thousands poured onto the streets and highways were choked, factories were shut down, and the cities grinded to a halt under the weight of slogans. But as the violence escalated in Delhi NCR last week, investigators have uncovered coordinated mobilization, digital networks, and possible multi-state links. The story began to shift last week from a fight for workers' rights to a far more complex and unsettling question. Was this actually an outburst of anger or a carefully orchestrated disruption using social media, especially WhatsApp? Here's how a riot was sparked in Delhi NCR last week.
It was the 13th of April, a usual Monday morning in the city of Noida. And within hours, around 9:30 a.m., Noida and parts of Delhi NCR came to a standstill. What began as an industrial workers' protest quickly escalated into one of the largest industrial unrest in the Delhi NCR region. Violence, arson, vandalism, and a city halted by slogans and barricades. Over 40 to 45,000 workers across nearly 80 locations took to the streets for mass protests and vandalism. Large number of police were deployed, tear gas was fired as protesters attempted to breach barricades. The workers' demand was a kit of basic survival. They said they cannot sustain on existing wages.
क्या हुआ था? भीड़ इकट्ठी हो गई थी। ऐसा हुआ था, हम लोग शनिवार को शांतिपूर्ण धरना प्रदर्शन कर रहे थे। फिर हम लोगों को यहाँ शनिवार को हमारी गाड़ियाँ भी नहीं आने दी थी। सर एक शिफ्ट में जितने बंदे आ पाए थे 2000 लगभग बंदे आ पाए थे, बस 2000 लोगों ने शांतिपूर्ण धरना प्रदर्शन करा 2 घंटे। उसके बाद फिर कंपनी में काम कराए। फिर हम लोगों ने प्लान बनाया था सब लोगों ने मिलकर के कि हम लोग मंडे को आएंगे, सोमवार को यानी कि आएंगे और प्रदर्शन शांतिपूर्वक करेंगे। सुबह को आए, हम लोग शांतिपूर्वक अपना प्रदर्शन कर रहे थे। तो जब शांतिपूर्वक बैठे हुए थे, जब यहाँ पे भीड़ लगी थी, तो हम लोगों ने देखा कि ये लोग जो पुलिस वाले था ना, ये भी गेट के सामने खड़े थे। तो हम लोग कह रहे थे हमें अंदर जाने दो, हमने अंदर से एचआर वालों से बात करेंगे जाके हमारा क्या हुआ क्या नहीं हुआ है। अंदर नहीं जाने दिया। तो फिर हम लोग जब कह रहे थे, जबरदस्ती कर रहे थे हमें जाने दो, नहीं जाने दिया। इन्होंने आकर के अचानक से आंसू गैस के गोले दागने स्टार्ट कर दिए और इतनी लाठियां बजाई सर, क्या ही बताएं। कई लड़कियों की तो सर पैर में चोट लगी अच्छे। और सर देखिए, अभी देखिए आप।
मैं तो काम करी थी, मुझे काम करते मारा इन्होंने। हम लाइन पे काम करते हैं तो हम काम करते, हाथ से काम करते, पुलिस वाले अंदर घुस के मारा हमने इन्होंने।
अच्छा, कल
कल भी आप लोगों की कोई बैठक हुई थी?
कल नहीं हुई थी, परसों हुई थी। हाँ,
क्या बोला गया?
शनिवार को बस सैलरी के ऊपर हुआ था, बस शांतिपूर्वक, बस सैलरी के ऊपर हुआ था, बस शांतिपूर्वक, और सैलरी के ऊपर कोई भी कुछ भी नहीं बोल रहा है। बस इधर उधर की बात कर रहे हैं, ना पुलिस वाले बोल रहे हैं, ना कोई भी बोल रहा है, बस इधर उधर की बात बोल रहे हैं, और सैलरी के ऊपर कुछ नहीं की।
क्या कुछ बाहर से लोग आए थे?
सर बाहर से कोई नहीं आया। मजदूर लोग शांतिपूर्वक धरना प्रदर्शन कर रहे थे, और उसके बाद जब पुलिस वालों ने लाठीचार्ज करा है तो फिर लोगों ने स्वयं बचाने के स्वयं रक्षा के लिए अपने आप ही पत्थर फेंकना स्टार्ट कर दिया था। और अब यहाँ पे अब ये हो रहा है कि हम लोग जब वहाँ मार्केट में हमें यहाँ से भगा दिया, मार्केट में ले गए, तो मार्केट के जो लोग हैं वो भी हम लोगों को मारने पीटने की तैयारी कर रहे हैं।
Workers said they were not allowed to enter their own industries and women workers were heavily lathi-charged. But even as demands were raised, the nature of protests began to change. The protests began to look more organized than spillage of anger over working conditions.
Yesterday, 83 places witnessed labor unrest and more than 42,000 labor were on road. However, only at 2 places the agitation turned violent. The police deployed whatever was minimum use of force and brought the situation under control immediately. However, 7 FIRs were registered yesterday and more than 300 people were arrested from the spots. These FIRs also include the social media handles, the platforms and the channels who have been instigating the labor agitation to turn violent. Some investigation and preliminary inquiry reports are already with us, and that has hinted at a deep-rooted conspiracy against this labor agitation. This is not a normal spontaneous labor agitation. There are factors behind this who have been instigating them.
The question remained, was this spontaneous anger or something more organized?
Day 2 of alleged wage hike protests turning violent in Noida. Now, what you see behind me is a contrasting image. Right behind me are the visuals of protesters and workers who are demanding a wage hike. Now, I would also want Vakar Bhai to show you around on this side of the ground where you see heavy police deployment by the Uttar Pradesh police. Now, these are the forces in action because Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath himself has took cognizance of the matter where he has ensured that all labor laws must be in place.
Police launched a crackdown, dozens detained, multiple FIRs registered, over 60 arrests, 13 cases filed, more than 300 people detained earlier in the probe. The investigation took a U-turn when the investigation boiled down to WhatsApp groups being used to incite and orchestrate the entire violence in the Delhi NCR region. Investigators identified 3 key accused: Rupesh Roy, Manisha Chauhan and Aditya Anand. The police claimed the accused played a coordinated role in mobilizing crowds, making them cross state borders and instigating violence across multiple locations. A digital network, multiple WhatsApp groups with over 1,000 members each were created. Workers were added using QR codes, allowing rapid and anonymous mobilization. Messages circulated calling for road blockades and coordinated protests. Investigators say the network was not limited to Noida. The accused were linked to protests in Delhi, Hyderabad and Manesar in Haryana. This raised questions about whether this unrest was part of a larger pattern. Were the demands of the workers genuine, or was there a bigger antisocial element triggering their emotion to instigate violence across the national capital region?
आज जब उत्तर प्रदेश में आपकी डबल इंजन की सरकार, एनडीए की डबल इंजन की सरकार, प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में, उनके मार्गदर्शन में सुरक्षा का, सुशासन का, सेवा का, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन का एक मॉडल खड़ी कर रही है, बेटी और व्यापारी की सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित कर रही है, नौजवान के लिए नौकरी और रोजगार की गारंटी दे रही है, अन्नदाता किसान के चेहरे पर खुशहाली लाने का काम कर रही है, तब जब यह सब कुछ हो रहा है, कुछ लोग उस शांति को समृद्धि की ओर बढ़ने से रोकने के लिए अशांति पैदा करने के भी षड्यंत्र कर रहे हैं.
False claims of deaths in police firing circulated online. These claims triggered panic and reignited violence. In a significant claim, investigators say 2 social media accounts linked to the protests were being operated from Pakistan. These accounts allegedly spread false information, provoked unrest. However, this angle remains under investigation.
A massive protest has been staged by the people of the Madarsa company, which is situated in the Noida phase 2 in the area, and they have started this protest at nearly 7 a.m. in the morning. When this protest turned also violent, they have also vandalized the police vehicles. There were a total of 4 vehicles vandalized here. Along with that, 2 vehicles were of the UP police, and as you can see, this vehicle is fully burnt, and this vehicle is turned upside down by the protesters here. And apart from this, as you can see, this whole scene, this whole spot tells a horrific tale about the incident.
The government says it has engaged with workers and initiated steps to address the concerns. An interim wage hike has already been announced.
कि श्रमिकों की जो मेन मांग थी उसे मान लिया गया है, वेतन को बढ़ा दिया गया है. इसके साथ साथ और भी कई सारे निर्देश दिए गए हैं, जैसे कि जो बढ़ा हुआ वेतन है वो जो है समय 10 तारीख से पहले खाते में आ जाए एक मुश्त. इसके साथ साथ सालाना बोनस नवंबर से पहले दिया जाए सभी को. जो यौन उत्पीड़न समिति है उसका गठन हो, उसकी अध्यक्षता भी महिलाएं करेंगी. इसके साथ साथ जितनी श्रमिकों की शिकायतें हैं, शिकायतें पेटी भी रहेगी हर इंडस्ट्री में. और हम लोगों ने भी कंट्रोल रूम के नंबर्स जारी किए हैं. उस कंट्रोल रूम के नंबर पर भी शिकायत अपने श्रमिक भाई बहन दे सकते हैं. साथ में कलेक्ट्रेट के भी दरवाजे खुले हैं. किसी भी प्रकार की कोई भी समस्या हम लोग उसको त्वरित रूप से कार्रवाई करेंगे.
Flag marches conducted, security tightened, and industrial operations gradually resuming. Noida, what began as a wage protest is now a multi-layered investigation, with arrests made, digital trails under scrutiny, and large links being examined. The focus now shifts to one question: what really triggered the violence on April 13th?
And that's it on this edition of the Longform Story. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be back next Saturday, 9 p.m.